Public health during the Industrial Revolution and why the Industrial Revolution caused it to decline. First, let's talk about some medical breakthroughs that happened during the Revolution. Germ theory was first discovered by a French scientist of the name Louis Pasteur, who discovered this by experimenting with wine and milk to demonstrate fermentation caused by these microorganisms. This research was conducted in the mid-late 19th century, or specifically the 1860s, which was later on the Revolution. The main idea of this discovery was that organisms can cause diseases, and by killing them you can prevent diseases.
Vaccines were used to prevent contagious diseases. Smallpox was the first successful vaccine, which was created by the English scientist Edward Jenner in 1798. Vaccines are used by putting a small amount of a virus into a healthy person to familiarize their immune system with the microorganism. This discovery led to other vaccines in the 19th and 20th centuries. Some of these include rabies, polio, measles, mumps, and whooping cough. Many people were opposed to this process because they did not comprehend the concept of injecting themselves with the disease. This group of people is called the Anti-Vaccination League, which originated in Britain in 1896.
Antiseptics were first used by Dr. Joseph Lister in 1867, when he first used carbolic acid to kill germs and sterilize wounds. He was inspired to do so by the germ theory and got the idea to use carbolic acids from its usage as sewage odor neutralizers. Germ theory was not widely accepted, though, until the late 1890s, when it then began to be used.
One of the main factors that led to public health declining in the Industrial Revolution were cities. The interaction between the populations and an influx of people from the countryside led to a huge amount of epidemics such as cholera, typhus, smallpox, and many more. Additionally, the cities were segregated by class, so some of the upper class people couldn't see the problems of the working class and tended to ignore them. For the working class conditions, a lot of the workers lived in row houses, and they had horrible ventilation. They were damp, that bred bacteria. There were few kitchens, and they shared privies, so lots of people were sick. And even when they tried to go to the doctor, their health often worsened because doctors might potentially be fakes or quacks, in addition to their medieval medical techniques, such as bloodletting, toxic potions, and trying to get their clients to vomit. In addition to all this, there was horrible drainage and sewage in cities because they weren't prepared for the immense amount of people. So there was a ton of waste in the streets from both factories, slaughterhouses, and just public housing. This led to a ton of pollution and waste, and as you can imagine, it was not very good for public health. In fact, in 1832, one doctor said that only 10% of the city of Leeds was in full health. As you can imagine, as a result of all these factors, the death rate skyrocketed, as did the infant mortality rate. The second reason that public health declined during the Industrial Revolution were the horrible working conditions. Long hours and terrible conditions led to poor health for all the workers. For example, in cotton mills, the machinery was extremely dangerous, it was a dusty and dirty environment, and it was extremely unhealthy for the children that worked there. Additionally, in coal mines, it was extremely dangerous as a result of potential cave-ins, gases, and explosions, and it was extremely cramped and damp, which led to tons of deformities and bad lungs in children and adults alike.
Speaking of birth defects, a fun fact concerning a mother of four named Betty Worrell explains the story of how her children were born in coal mines. Betty worked in the coal mines since she was 6 years old, and while working in the mines, Betty had 2 children on the way. She gave birth to both of them and kept on working with the baby by her side. After the end of the workday, she just brought it home as if nothing had happened.
Cholera was a very serious disease which was first introduced to Britain in October of 1831. After this, there were huge breakouts again in 1841, 1851, and then again in 1866. The Industrial Revolution made this disease travel easier and faster overseas because of crowded conditions and more people interacting with each other. In addition, the initial outbreaks were always recorded by the shore. Unsanitary and crowded conditions aided the spread of cholera, which was also spread in drinking water, which made it so much easier for more people to become infected.
So to wrap it all up, though there were medical breakthroughs in the Industrial Revolution, the increase in the amount of cities, cholera, and other epidemics, and horrible, horrible working conditions led to poor public health overall.